don't know whatever happened with those negotiations. Now, of course, they worship on Saturday, which probably is a well-used time, but I think they have quite a bit of property there.
Pay parking.
Just that part of that bowling alley parking lot is not bowling alley parking lot, but parking lot for the skate park.
Right.
Which is public.
And the greenway, and it's, I forget what you call it. It's an exercise trail where they've got all kinds of. There's also, I think the state actually put some money in there because there's an official launch ramp there also.
We could certainly look at some other options and talk with some folks.
And it would be an improvement, and I'd have to double check, but as far as impact fees and how that's utilized, if we were gonna look at property and if it was in close proximity to develop, of course, there's stormwater implications and adding impervious surface and all those scenarios. Joanne had mentioned Seventh-day Adventist. I think at one point they were talking about dedicating part of their parcel, basically a boundary line adjustment, to have an overflow parking lot, and then dedicated crosswalk. In our last conversations with them, which has been over 3 years ago, with decreased revenues, that was off the table at that point. But we could definitely make that call, see if there's an opportunity with what they have in place right now and where they're at.
Don't you think that this problem, though, pretty much enhances everything we've talked about from River Road to Northeast Third?
Yeah,
It just enhances everything we've talked about that. So.
yeah. Yeah, we did have Shepherd Road 2 years running as a #1 bike ped priority. Obviously, that's been adjusted as of last Monday, but, so it's still on the bike ped list for improvements. But we can look into those options and see what we can do on an interim basis, even if it's short-term with no parking, sandwich boards, or whatever it may be. I'll huddle up with Chief and see what makes the most sense out there as far as safety-wise and then enforcement, so.
And maybe restricting it on one side of the road so that
Yeah.
They've got that as a pathway, foot pathway to some degree or something that gives them some.
Yeah, because really on
We've
the,
got no control on the park itself. It's a DNR park, isn't it?
part of it's city-owned where the deck is, where we
Yeah.
redid that, I think 7 to 8 years ago, and then beyond that's natural resources. Where we run into real conflicts is the parcels to the south, ingress, egress, trying to get out of their driveways. Even though the south is tight, there's not residents along that stretch until you get east of the park where there's houses right on the water.
Right.
So you don't have the conflicts on the south, but you still got people walking down the middle of the road. So
Anyway, that.
Chief will have it all resolved tomorrow, so he's. We'll huddle up on it, see what we can do for the high season.
Only after he leaps tall buildings in a single bound.
And just so you know, the email that you all got over the weekend that we all got copied on in regards to the cat issue, police department, both their animal control board, code enforcement are already working on that. I saw a string of emails going back and forth today and communications to the folks as well, so that was moving on that side. Any other items from council? Dave?
Okay, one last update or discussion item is our public defender contract. Don English brought this up at our last department head meeting. The contract runs to the end of this year. He had some conversation with the current firm that provides that service for us, and they have offered to continue to provide services at the same rate if we would continue that relationship. Don's recommendation to us is that we take advantage of that offer. We could go out with an RFP for, see what's out there for public defender services. The scope of expenditure here is in that $2,000 to $3,000 a month range, or a little more than that, I think, is what we're spending. I don't have that exact number with me. Don's feel is that we might gain a little bit of savings if we went out and threw that out for competition. In order 10% or something like that from what the current rate is. Not a large savings if it indeed would manifest. However, he indicates that this firm is providing very good services. Things aren't getting tossed back. There aren't complaints that are coming through that they're inadequately representing citizens. And in terms of the relationship that's already been established with that firm and their track record and the fact that they are willing to continue to provide services at their same rate, all points to the fact that we should bring that back to the council and go ahead and continue that relationship moving into the future. So I just wanted to see if there are any concerns or comments before we would bring that back to you.
It's more a point of curiosity. If you send out an RFP, there's staff time involved in preparing it and legal counsel time, and then once it comes back in, it all has to be analyzed. Do you have any sense off the top of your head what it costs to do an RFP?
It really varies on the scope of services that you put out and how extensive the review process is. I haven't seen specifically the scope of services here. I would assume the scope would not have to be amended significantly, just maybe changing the dates, but I would assume that that scope could be the same. So to prepare the RFP wouldn't be very extensive, a few hours probably to put that together. But then there's the advertising, there's fielding the calls and questions. Folks who read that scope typically always have questions, want more information and more data. It's hard to estimate what that would take. You'd probably want some of Don's time potentially to inform their response. Where I think the most time would come in would be in the evaluation process. We would need to put together an expert review. You'd probably want to have more than one attorney taking a look at that, make sure that we're getting credible responses, and then come up with a rating system and score it. So in-kind, it's a type of an in-kind thing. It could be several $1,000s by the time you put everything together. To be some volunteers probably that we would ask to help us out. So not significant in terms of that cost, but it's time. It does take time. So Don's sense is we have a good thing going right now. They're willing to do it at the same rate. The soft costs around establishing a new relationship with a public defender would outweigh any nominal savings that we might see.
Yeah, I was just thinking if 10% savings is, if not swamped, then it's very close to what it would cost to do the RFP.
Potentially, that's right.
And then to establish a new relationship with a new supplier is another cost. So I want to be careful here that we don't spend dollars to save pennies.
Right, right.
John?
When was the last time we put on RFP on this position?
Could you have a look back?
I'll get back to you. I don't know. We can find out when the last time we did it is. It sounds like it's been a little while though.
Well, there's been I think there's been discussion in the past about the city attorney going out for an RFP. And yet, there we go, we're right back to the lose some a lot of institutional knowledge